Welcome to the English with Kirsty podcast from www.englishwithkirsty.com. Here I'll be sharing with you tips, information and other learning resources so that you can improve your business English. Hi everyone and welcome to the English with Kirsty podcast. So we're taking a short break from our Better English in 2018 series, and today's episode is something else, which is about pronunciation. So if anyone's been listening to the podcast for a while, you may remember episode 125 was about the silent L. So the letter L that we usually pronounce, and some words in which you don't pronounce it at all. So if you're interested in that, then you can go back to episode 125. But today's episode is about the letter T, because I started thinking about this when I read a post on a blog that I follow by another teacher. It's not mine. It's by someone who knows a lot more about words and where they come from and how language develops than I do. I think it's interesting. So if you like that kind of thing, then go and check out the English Language Thoughts blog. But basically, this blog post was talking about the word often or often, and the question was, do you pronounce the T in this word? And it was a kind of trick question, really, because you can, but you don't have to. It's an option. So some people say often, some people say often, O-F-T-E-N, and both are okay. But there are some other words where it's not okay. You know, the correct pronunciation is not to pronounce the T, and that's unusual because most of the time when you see a T you pronounce it. So I thought we could look at some of the words where you definitely don't pronounce it. So yeah, often is on this list because some people don't pronounce it, but that's more of a choice thing, whereas with all these other examples it's not a choice, it's just the correct way to pronounce them is without the T. Sometimes because they've been brought from other languages, and in the other language the T wasn't pronounced, so it isn't pronounced in English either. And sometimes, I don't know actually, sometimes it just is never pronounced. Okay, so let's look at some examples. So if we have a word like past or fast, then you do pronounce the T in words like past, fast. But if you have something like fasten, so fasten your seatbelts, it's not fasten your seatbelts, it's fasten your seatbelt. So even if you've got a group of letters that you're used to seeing, like fast, and faster or fastest, all of these words have the T pronounced. But something like fasten, you don't pronounce it. So that's just something you need to learn, really, because these are only exceptions. Most of the time you do pronounce the T. So some of the words with ET at the end you don't pronounce. Some you do, like ticket, for example. I'm going to buy a ticket for the train or for the concert. Then you do pronounce it. But words like ballet, gourmet, or chalet, ballet, gourmet, or chalet, you don't pronounce them at all. So it's just an A sound, like holiday, but in writing it's ET, and you don't pronounce the T there. So some words with STEN, like listen. We're doing listening exercises. You're listening to a podcast. You're not listening to a podcast. So even though with a word like list, you're making a list of the things that you want to buy from the supermarket, you would pronounce the T there. Words like listen, and christen, and glisten, and listening, or listened, all these things, you don't pronounce the T there. So if you talk about often, yeah, that's kind of, we talked about that before, you can pronounce it or not. But the water softener, like some houses in areas with very hard water, they have to have a water softener. It's not a water softener, because that sounds strange. Or fabric softener you can put into your washing machine, and it's not fabric softener, it's fabric softener. And sometimes both the T and the letter next to it are silent with the H. So if you talk about you have asthma, even though there's a TH in that word, if we pronounce it, it's asthma or asthmatic. It's not asthmatic because that would be really difficult to say. So we ignore the T and the H in this set of words. So there are some other words like castle, for example. It's not castle, it's castle. So you've got words like robust or cast. So if you're talking about the cast of a film, for example, it's cast, but castle is without the T, even though you write it with the T. And other words like that are bustle or wrestle or whistle, and as we've got castle as well. So there are some more exceptions. If you have a word like wrist, the wrist between your hand and your arm, you do pronounce it. And chest, if you find a chest full of old clothes or something, then you would pronounce it. But words like Christmas, nobody says Christmas. That's quite hard to say, isn't it? Christmas tree. So nobody says it like that. So it's Christmas, even though there's a T there. And chestnut, you don't pronounce it there. So a couple of words with IST, you just say is. So Christmas. Another word that people often mispronounce, because I guess you don't talk about them a lot, but if you need to get a mortgage for your house, it's not a mortgage, it's a mortgage. So it's a silent T in the middle of this word as well, when you borrow money from the bank so that you can buy a house. So can you think of any more words with silent T's? If you can, let me know. And you can email me at podcast@englishwithkirsty.com. Don't forget you have to spell my name right, or because it's part of my website, if you get that wrong, I won't get the email. So podcast@englishwithkirsty.com. So if you can think of any more, or if you can think of any other silent letters that you'd like me to look at, letters that aren't always pronounced, or if you have any other questions about pronunciation of words or things that you would like me to cover in future episodes of the podcast, you can let me know by sending me an email to tell me what they are. So have a good week and have fun learning English. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the English with Kirsty podcast. If you have any questions or comments, my email address is kirsty@englishwithkirsty.com, or you can go to www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast, where you'll find information about the individual episodes.